start my talks by connecting. If you'd be kind enough to put both feet flat on the ground. If you'd be kind enough to sit up straight, take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe, kind of let go of the kind of, might have been just a little bit of tumult to get here with the rain and the traffic. I know it's early, but a couple of deep breaths to just kind of let go of getting here. Breathing in to just be present in your body. Kind of setting you up to be more relaxed, to listen well. And in your mind's eye, I would invite you to bring in your mind's eye, in your imagination, bring some people that were some of your teachers, some of your family. Imagine the faces of some people that you learned from to kind of be with you as you learn now. And as you imagine some of those family members, teachers that weren't family members, just visualize some of their faces with you. Now imagine some of the people who were guardians, caretakers of this land 100, 200 years ago. They were indigenous people before we got here, right? How about bringing them in as they were extraordinary caretakers of this part of the planet? Invite them to listen with you and me as we just share with one another, connect. You're a little more settled now. Thank you so much for getting here, and allow your eyes to open with this a bit softer, maybe, a different awareness. I'm inviting you to be open. So welcome, so glad to be with you. Aging is an inevitable journey, yeah? Yeah? And historically, cultures have related to aging differently. Different cultures on the planet have related to the whole process of aging different than, the culture we live in. Don't we kind of regale more about our adolescence and our 20s and our youth than as people are going into their 30s and 40s and 50s, are people, oh wow, I'm gonna get into my 70s and 80s. Not, no. So we live in a time when most of us look at our past with different values than the expectations of our future. Yes? Yeah? Most, as a culture? So I'm inviting you to look at is, what if we had a context for how we live our life that as we got older, we got wiser? What if that was our context? I mean, but for you as an individual, what if we lived in a context that as we got older, we were more in touch with our generosity of how much we loved self-care in growing? But that was our context. As we were growing older, we were in touch with our generosity of how good we were to ourselves in self-care. What if that was your context? How we grow old is more to do with our lifestyle and choices than most of us believe. I want to say that again. How we grow old is more related to our lifestyle than how most of us have been led to believe or think is true. Play with me a little bit. We believe that as we get older, we get
wiser.
Yeah, but as you get older, you get
Wiser.
More fragile.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We believe that as we get older, we get sicker. No, that's something new age that maybe you've grown into as your wisdom. That's not where you've been brought up. Just think for a moment. Don't we as a culture have, as you get older, you get more fragile. As you get older, you get more tired. As you get older, you get more inflexible. Oh, that's what I believe. I've been believing that for a long time.
You don't move as much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's a common, oh, he had a heart attack. How old was he? Well, he was 67. Well, he was 67. We have these thoughts that are assumptions that we relate to how we interpret things. I want to suggest to you that culturally, maybe you have a few, oh my goodness, New Age thinking, but most of our Judeo-Christian in our culture is we believe that as you get older, you get tighter, more fragile. Yeah, generally speaking. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. So I'm looking to be with you for the next short period of time to discuss with you a lot of what's out there now in terms of science, to kind of provoke and tickle and, you know, have you think about maybe the way you were brought up to think, maybe the way a lot of people think who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, could shift a little bit. I'm not saying that's wrong and this is what I'm presenting is right. I'm having a discussion with you just to open possibilities. The average retirement age in this country is 67. Most people start working late teens, early 20s. The average person in this country dies at 78. That means most Americans have about 11 years in their life where they're not oriented to earning money for themselves or their family and oriented towards security. That means about 11 years we're looking at how to deal with hobbies and travel and philanthropies and doing things that are not money, family oriented. It's 11 years out of 78. And the vast majority, I'm telling you, in our culture, die of disease rather than old age. I mean, what if you had a car and you never put transmission oil in it, and you never put, change the oil, and you never really checked the air in your tires? You know, and after a while you drive it and it's kicking and sputtering and, you know, the pickup's not too great. You know, wow, is this car designed to be obsolete? Oh, you didn't read the manual. Oh, there were some things you needed to do to take care of this machine. Yeah, Our disease management system is a system that's reactionary. Health insurance is not health insurance. It does not pay much for your health. It is a disease management system. Yet we call it health insurance. That's interesting. Dare we call it what it really is? We live in a culture where we're more reactionary than proact. We live in a culture where 11%, I'm going to give you two examples, of Americans are on statins. You know people on statins? Don't want to raise your hand if you're on statin. I'm not telling you statins are bad. I'm saying it's interesting to me as a functional medicine naturopathic doctor practicing for almost 50 years. It's a while. Of how many patients, I'm very, very blessed. People come see me from all over the country, Asia, Europe. I do individual consults with people all over. Of how many people, I'm using this as an example, are on statins, and their doctors don't really tell them much about you might want to cut back on bacon or ice cream or dairy or red meat. It says, yeah, I mean, you're shaking your heads. I mean, I'm not telling you something that's radically, no. Doctors fix, they fix leaks. I say euphemistically, My son is a medical doctor. The mother of my children is a medical doctor. Doctors, to some large extent, are like glorified plumbers. But that would be an example of how many people know that there's a huge controversy that statins are not great for the brain, are one of the factors of people getting dementia. A lot of people don't know that. Now, some doctors think, oh, wow, they believe, and some doctors don't. So I said it's a controversial. But how many people, when they're given statins, are given that piece of information? You may not want to do this, or if you do, for the next 3-6 months, you might want to do something dietarily, like have a whole lot less red meat and have a whole lot less ice cream and sugar and the kinds of things that either encourage your own liver to make statins, or the kinds of cholesterol foods you're getting from the outside, you're minimizing, rather than taking some magic pill that now your total cholesterol and your triglycerides change in a lab. But again, it's so drug-oriented. And we spend $10 billion a year. So this is an introductory course, talk. I'm doing a second talk. I hope you'll bring your friends and come back, which is going to be drilled down a lot more on sleep and memory. But this is a conversation I want to have with you to kind of lay a foundation. And I could have used cancer. I could have used the immune system. I could have used our heart as a way of shaping things for us to all listen about how to age more gracefully rather than age, quote, more normally. But I'm focusing on our brain to give you a lot of things to scratch your head about, given how many people you know are in their 60s, 70s, 80s and have mild dementia, Parkinson's, do you or don't you have Alzheimer's, my memory is not great, my hearing is not great, have different things that, oh, what, why, oh, well, they're getting old. There's the undercurrent belief system. As you get older, you're going to lose your memory. Well, what if that was just you didn't put air in your tires? You know, what if it was related to something that we weren't taught? Are you ready? You ready? Mm-hmm. All right. You ready to learn more about how to age gracefully? Yeah? So I want to thank Sydney and Council of Aging for inviting me. I appreciate it. I've been a student of health promotion, went to Brandeis last century, oh my God, and got a degree in comparative religion, thought I was going to divinity school, got sidetracked because somebody invited me to go see a man in Wakefield, north of Boston, who was an MD 1930 and got a naturopathic degree in 1932. So instead of going to divinity school, which I was pretty like, that would be great, to teach comparative religion at the college level, I went to naturopathic school, which was 3 years pre-med, 4 years medical school. I delivered both of my children at home. I started a clinic in 1981 that was open for 16 years, 150 doctors, 15 full-time secretaries, 15 part-time secretaries. I've been chief advisor to NBC News in complementary integrative medicine. So I've had a passion for a while of how to learn about our capacity for healing is far greater than the culture of, what's the word, allopathic medicine. And I'm not dissing like nobody should go to an allopathic doctor. I'm just saying it's about disease management. And sometimes some of my best friends are doctors. Sometimes people's medications, but people come to me to either help them reduce their medications, avoid medications, can I avoid surgeries, where the thought is, no, this is the only way, and it might not be. So I've been passionate in going to conferences all over the world with MD, PhD types who are really on the cutting edge of what's possible. And oftentimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So this isn't like what I'm doing is far better than the medical world. But as I travel around the country, teach in colleges and hospitals and research places like Dana-Farber and spas and gyms and fitness centers and places like this, my passion gets easily transferred to you just for you to realize there's something else available besides drugs and surgery. Not to say that drugs and surgery are bad or wrong. So, I wrote a book. Some of you might want to read some of it on my website. It's on audio if you like to listen to books more. Some of what I'm about to go over, I drill down a lot more in my book. You can get it from my website, you can get it from Amazon. And this is something I just am blessed. What do you do for work? I don't know if I've ever worked. It's kind of like a calling, if you would. So I so deeply appreciate how unique we are in terms of our strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, we're really different one to another. But on another hand, it's staggering how similar we are, you know. I mean, for all of us, you know, our liver's on our right side, and for most of us, we have 2 kidneys and 2 lungs. And there's a way that our human body is designed to really look at not just how to manage symptoms and what can I do to get rid of that, but really shift our listening to what is it that my body's asking for? What is it my physical body's asking for? And I said a few moments ago that preventive medicine is a little like, really? Given the amount of money that's put into reactive medicine? So we're all kind of like swept into this conversation about vaccines for COVID. Did you hear about that? COVID vaccines? Should I take it? Do I have to take it? Does the government have the right to force me to take it? Oh my God, I'm staying away from that. But as a naturopath, I'm scratching my head and going, even 5-6 years ago when COVID started, and what a crisis that was for all of us to try to navigate through, is so much of the conversation, if not almost all of the conversation, was related to are you going to take the vaccine or not? But if you Googled vitamin D and COVID, and how the COVID virus doesn't like vitamin D, and the COVID virus doesn't like zinc. Did you know that if you took more zinc, it might work as well or better? Probably not. Did you know that there were a few nutrients that were being right there in Google, Dr. Google? It wasn't some small little camp of people were doing some outrageous worship. That's my point. It's not even publicized so that you could have a choice. Well, I don't know if I want to take vitamin D or zinc. Oh, good, so it didn't resonate with you, so don't. Take the vaccine. But that's what I mean by the undertow. And yet people talk as if preventive medicine is real. But anybody like making huge Olympic changes at once? Is there? No, I didn't think so. So sometimes huge changes can be a bit overwhelming. So for the next little bit of time, I want to go over things that will, before we end, as we end in a little bit, will allow you to consider some small changes, some small steps that you might take in your life that might make a difference. You know, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to go off coffee. Or, oh, I'm going to exercise, you know, an hour, 4 days a week. You know, New Year's resolutions that you make, and then it's like, oh, God, how much did I lose paying on that gym membership that I'm not going to anymore? That's a whole other topic to potentially discuss, which is how do we humans shift and make habits when we'd really like to, but we're a bit ingrained in whatever we were doing. Well, how do you effectively shift? But that's a different discussion. Love to talk on that at another time. So let's look at our brain. Ready? The most cutting edge research about our brain is that things that we might be concerned with. Dementias, Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that. Got the drift what I'm talking about? The cutting edge research is they begin in our 30s and 40s and 50s, long before you have symptoms, before we have symptoms. Those nutritional, physiological, biochemical shifts begin, and our medical systems have not yet caught up with testing us as individuals the way you're tested now, looking at A1C. You know what A1C is? Yeah. Were you tested for A1C 20 years ago? No. So that would be an example of whatever they thought about preventing diabetes 20 years ago, 15 years ago, has evolved to, oh, there's even a better test like that. Sometime in the next 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, the kind of tests that I do with clients and some MDs around the country do to look at brain cognitive decline, people will be doing like people look at creatinine and BUN to look at kidney function. Do you know what you're doing now with your doctors to look at brain function? Of course you don't, because you're not doing anything. That's nothing. That's not good news. Given how many people you might know in their, maybe not 60s, certainly 70s. If you don't know people in their 70s, you probably know people in their 80s whose memories are mildly, moderately going downhill. So I want to discuss with you factors about areas that are now scientifically related to cognitive decline. Would you like to hear those areas? But before I do, I'd like you to write down what you think. 1 word, 2 words. What do you think is the most important thing that's related to cognitive decline? Write it down on your piece of paper. What one thing? Well, I'm looking at what you think. Before I go over the 10 most important, I want you to just, with what you've read and heard and listened to on the radio or your doctor has told you, what do you think is the most important variable for cognitive decline for people? And if you don't know, then write down you don't know. But some of you have a guess. It's okay to guess. You're not going to get graded.
One guess.
Yeah, well, guess. You're not going to be, there's no fail or pass here. What do you think is the most important thing for your brain to be healthy or not? Or to suggest that you're going to get dementia? Yeah, what's the most important thing? Write it down, 1 or 2 words, so you don't write a sentence. Write it down.
Okay.
Write it down. You wrote it down? Did you write it down? He's writing. Did you write it down? Debbie?
I'm done.
Linda? Knitting lady? Did you write it down? Okay. Okay, so we'll come back. I just want to see, some of you. All right, here are the 10 areas I'd like you to write down in the worksheet I gave you. One area that's highly related to cognitive decline as we get older is trauma. People who've had concussions, head injuries, according to a 2018 JAMA neurology research study, suggests that people have 2.5 times the risk for cognitive decline. And there are some studies that suggest that if you have more than 1 concussion or head injury, it's up to 72% risk compared to other people. So if you've had concussion, or you know people who have had concussions, that's like, oh, what might you do other than that was 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Because that's a variable to how you get older to getting some kind of dementia or something. So now you can start writing on the worksheets I gave you. Trauma. 2, chronic stress, persistent high cortisol, high adrenaline, leaves people 2 to 3 times more at risk for dementias. Now, You know, if we had the ability to lay in our hammock for hours every afternoon, you'd get stress lines on your butt. You understand life is not about being successful when you have no stress. I'd like you to have a distinction between stress and distress. I'm talking about when you're kind of like in some vigilant kind of getting ready mode because of life's circumstances of people passing, business, bankruptcy, having more money than you know what to do with. Something happens with your community, your church, your temple. Something happens with wars that just, oh my God, they just grab you in a way that just got you by the throat. And it's hard to just live in a world, you know, where Ukraine and Gaza and other kinds of things are happening. And for most of our life, there've often been Gazas and Ukraines happening. I mean, if you look at your life the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, stress, when people don't have more successful, masterful, I'm going back, distress, which doesn't mean you feel like your heart beating quickly, like a policeman's pulling you over on the side of the road. But when you're living your life being pushed by coffee, when you're living your life being pushed by will, and you're knitting, or you're sculpting, or you're writing creatively, or you're reading or writing poetry, or your Bible study, or something, sleep isn't enough really to tamp down the way, remember, you may not feel it. It might not be like a policeman's pulling you over looking at how fast you were going. So it may not be, because you might not realize how your adrenaline and cortisol, two names for the same thing, are driving you. 2 to 3 times more the risk of dementia when you've got chronic, lifelong, or huge periods of life pushing you. 3, variable that has people more at risk for cognitive decline. Toxins, aluminum pots and pans, underarm deodorants that have aluminum, cooking potatoes and other things with aluminum. If you take aluminum foil and put it in the fridge, that's fine. If you have aluminum pots and pans or tin foil and it's getting heated in the oven once, I'm talking about weeks, months, years of using aluminum. Your doctors, I've been for 40, 50 years, been testing every patient who comes in my door, do you have high levels of aluminum? Go home and Google aluminum and cognitive decline. It's not like new. Toxins, high levels of mercury, dental fillings, too much tuna fish, too much swordfish, cadmium. This is an area called heavy metals. Molds. People have mold allergies that are not just giving them symptoms of molds and breathing, but there's a lot of research on how molds over years affect the brain. So the third area I want you to just write down is called toxins, especially when you haven't gone to a doctor and gotten them identified. Because if you have high aluminum, stop using aluminum pots and pans and underarm deodorants. But there are ways of chelating. Chelating is a Greek word, means to grab on. And it won't take you a week, but it also won't take you 3 years. It'll take you 3 months or 6 months to get that aluminum out of your body, whether you're 40, 50, or 85. It doesn't make any difference. You can still get your body toxins, very big source of why people's brains deteriorate. 4, inflammation. You need another pen?
Yeah.
I gave you a pen that died on us? What did it need? I'll try this one. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You want me to throw that one out? Oh, that was yours. I didn't give you that. That was your pen. Inflammation. Inflammation is the body's natural response to a lot of things. Inflammation is not bad. But chronic inflammation, so inflammation or inflammatory process is kind of the body's way of, oh, we got an irritation, we got an infection, we got something going on here, we have an injury. So inflammation itself is part of the design. I'm talking about people who have chronic inflammation, wake up and have a lot of mucus in the morning, or people who have different itises, colitis, anything with an itis is an inflammation, arthritis, colitis, inflammatory states, rather than just here, take this for your arthritis, doesn't address anything about the inflammation. So different inflammatory states have been shown to increase dementia 35%. 5, chronic hospital infections, not just any old cold or bronchitis, but people who have to go to the hospital and are in the hospital for lengthy infections have an increased risk for dementia of 50 to 70%. Wow. Here's one that you can star or put 2 stars next to, number 6.
What was 5? I missed 5.
Chronic hospital infections.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say.
6 is blood sugar dysregulation. And one of the things, you know, if you've been somewhat, had an ear to the ground about health and sugar, you've read about sugar? You don't have a whole lot of books on eat more sugar. You know, there are a lot of books or articles on sugar is not good for your teeth, or if you're a woman, sugar is not good for osteoarthritis and osteoporosis. You know, the different things about you might want to cut down your sugar. Oh, do you have diabetes in your family? Well, here's what's going to explode, which is why I suggested you put 2 stars next to this one, is that blood sugar roller coastering. Hypoglycemia, missing breakfast, having breakfast but missing lunch, having way too much sugar. I don't know what way too much sugar is. I mean, way too much sugar might be, you know, ice cream 3 times a week. I don't know what way too much alcohol is. You might be able to do a glass of wine 3 times a week, and you might not be able to do a glass of wine for a month, just because of the last 30 years of what you've eaten. So it's hard to say this is what everybody should do. What I'm saying is the research is incredible about the relationship between hypoglycemia, pre-diabetic conditions, and dementia. The more your blood sugar roller coasters, the more you have metabolic resistance, or you are diabetic, or you don't know the difference between being hypoglycemia, your blood sugar's bottoming out because all you do is have coffee and it's, you know, pushing midday and you don't eat until lunch. 60% increased risk for dementia if you've got blood sugar dysregulations. 7, nutrient insufficiencies. Notice I use the word an insufficient nutrient amount because a nutritional deficiency, that word deficiency, is a medical term. For instance, I've been evaluating people's vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, toxins, allergies, hormones for close to 50 years. I have never once seen anybody that I would say, you have scurvy. Scurvy is a medical term, a pathology, if you don't have enough vitamin C. But I have seen not dozens, and probably more than hundreds of people who bruise easily, gums bleed easily, their allergies are out of control, they're not absorbing calcium, and in my world, they don't have enough vitamin C for optimal function. So the term is a nutritional insufficiency, because I've given enough talks in hospitals and to medical doctors and nurses where they'll raise their hand and say, you're not finding deficiencies, and okay. 30 years later, it's not a deficiency, it's an insufficient amount for optimal function. And there are particular nutrients that you could write down that you might want to ask somebody to test for you. Now, I'm not giving you the complete list. because some of the newer blood tests have like 150 data points of looking at what do you need to look at for your brain. But here are some highlights. Vitamin D, folic acid, B12, omega fish oils. Those are 4 that you could start with, that you could ask your doctor, would you please test me? The last time I was here, we didn't run B12, vitamin D, folic acid, and do you test for omega fish oils rather than just telling me to take some? Some of you have, anybody, you ever heard of Netflix? Do you watch Netflix?
Yes.
You're knitting too much. I want to give you my name and address just in case you want to send me a vest or a sweater or something. So on Netflix, there's a series. Have you heard of Blue Zones? Never heard of Blue Zones. Write down Blue Zones. And on Netflix, there's a...
Number 8, is it?
What? That's not, thank you very much. It's not number 8. This is not a number. So blue zones are areas on the planet Earth where people start a whole new life at 95 or 100. And these are areas that have been studied in the United States, California, a place called Loma Linda, in Sardinia, in Okinawa. There are places on the planet that are called blue zones. Why are they called blue zones? Ready? Because the notes were written on blue paper. Sorry, just say. Anyway, on Netflix, they have beautiful 4 episodes based on the book that you could read that talk about how these people eat food-wise that allow them to live till 110, 112, 115 as a whole culture for decades. And it's beautifully filmed and very easily described, you know, not highly scientific. And some of you might want to see it or read the book. But I offer you the Blue Zones on Netflix is a beautiful way of beginning to understand food and what are some of the similarities between Okinawa and Sardinia. They're far from one another. Well, what are some of the similarities of how they eat that are different than differences? You know, what are some common denominators that have the people who live in those places not have a challenging leaving their body in their late 60s, early 70s, late 70s through disease? And so that it's not just the studio, it's going into those areas of the world. I found it fascinating. I offer it to you. Okay, we ready to 8. We're in the home stretch. Vascular damage. One of the biggest areas that is related to brain decline is lack of blood flow to the brain. If you look at people in their older years, how many people do you know are walking like this? If you have a relationship with them, go put your hand on their back, put your hand on their upper chest, and see if you can get them to stand up. Whether they have a walker and they're way too like this and now they're walking like this, lack of blood flow is one of my pet peeves about people in their 40s, 50s, 60s. As the body has trouble, because there's a two-way arrow. I had a very severe concussion 6 years ago. Somebody hit me on my driver's door and my head hit the window and I was like off the grid for about a year. And one of the things that I couldn't do was to stand on one leg. And I was like this. And I saw some brilliant, wonderful neurologists here in Boston, where we are, but they didn't help me. And I went to see this incredible concussion specialist in Minneapolis. And there were NFL football players and NHL hockey players and regular normal people like me who had really hurt their heads badly. And one of the things I learned is that when you have brain injury, you can't hold your head up straight. You know, he would say, hold my head up straight, and I would, and within seconds, I wouldn't realize that I couldn't keep it up. The people we're seeing in our 70s and 80s, whether it's their chiropractor, whether it's their significant other, whether it's somebody, is not coaching them to stand up straight before it gets too late and now they can't stand up straight.
Osteoporosis.
And the cervical spine gets concretized. This lady said osteoporosis is a factor. True. Okay, let me finish and then we'll come back to questions. Can you hold with your question? Thank you. Just write it down so you don't forget. Number 9, social isolation. One of the biggest factors for people growing old in a more normal way is not only being alone, but the distinction between being alone and lonely. Some people can be alone and they're not lonely. Having friends pass away, having children move away, having life change as it does for all of us, is social isolation is a huge factor, which is why community centers like Council of Aging, other kinds of senior centers, people living not alone in their apartment, which they could. It's not a risk that they're going to leave the stove on or the oven on, but it's just move in with people you're going to see and connect with them, because isolation is a factor. Okay. Debbie, what did you write down for the most important factor that contributes to people?
Well, my first one
Yeah, just one.
was food.
Excellent. Good choice. What did you write down? What did you think was the most important factor?
I don't know that maybe it goes to the other place. I said exercise.
Exercise. Okay.
That's what I wrote.
Exercise.
Blood flow.
Blood flow. That was one of the ones I mentioned. What did
Trauma.
Trauma, and that was one of the ones I wrote down. Did you write down what you thought was, sir?
No.
Okay, good. So here's the 10th factor that is what science is talking about, but I saved it for last because a lot of people think it's the most important factor, and it's not. But since none of you wrote it down, it's okay. Another factor is genetics. Another factor is are there people in your family that have dementia, Parkinson's, or any kind of brain decline? So if somebody in your family has any brain concerns, it gives you a 10 to 30% risk for you to have dementia. And if it's in your immediate family, as in mother or father, it can give you a 50% chance. So those are 10 areas. And now I want to quickly go through 12 foundations for better health. Also, you have write this down. You want to ask me a question quickly?
Yeah, you were talking about posture and head position.
Yes, sir.
And the injury causing you to be unable to hold your head up. Is it causal if you sit there and slouch? Does that cause a lack of brain flow?
100%.
Okay.
Over months or years. So that I have friends older than me, they're in their 80s, and when they eat like this. And when I say, could you sit up? They can no longer do it, whether they've got osteoporosis and hardening concretized bones or not. It's your body gets habituated, and that over, not a day or two, but over years, you're blocking blood flow. These neck muscles get really tight, and the blood can't flow to your brain.
Can I just make a comment?
Quickly? Yeah.
It will be quick. If you start researching, I have a brain issue, which is not a big issue. But anyhow, if you start looking at things like broccoli, I never looked at vegetables or fruits or anything, and the value that they have in your body, and it helps the blood flow move. So research your food. Even things like raspberries are way stronger than a lot of other fruits.
All right.
The end of my fruit story.
Debbie, thank you for the segue. I love it. 12 things you can do Debbie started us off. It's number one on my list. Food. You can start decreasing sugar and alcohol, which rob B vitamins from your body. You can, what Debbie said, you can start increasing colors. Don't just, I'm going to eat more vegetables, but have more colors, red, yellow, green, orange. Have more colored vegetables. 2, thank you, exercise. Sitting is the new smoking. Increase your heart rate. Wear a sweatshirt. Sweat.
Wear a sweatshirt, you mean sweat.
Wear a sweatshirt to help you sweat. Put the hood over your head. If all you can do is walk, walk. If you can do an elliptical, do an elliptical. If you can do a treadmill, do a treadmill. If you can do squats, something to get your heart rate up, to get, what were you asking about? Blood flow. The relationship between exercise, well, I walk my dog all over Weston, 1.5 miles, 2 plus every 4 or 5 days, 6 days a week. But I'm not walking with my dog fast. I'm not creating an aerobic. That's different. That's my elliptical work that I'm doing. 3, I'm going to drill down much more on this if you be kind enough to come to one of our next talks. Sleep. The average person needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
In which lifetime? Yeah.
The average American gets 6 hours of sleep. And as I will drill down, and in the next talk, it is a huge component of how our brains deteriorate. So you might help by taking a 15, 30-minute power nap in the afternoon and not fighting that you need a power nap. Or you might turn off your TV at 9:30. And get away from your computers and your phones or whatever it is that is keeping your mind going. But I have a whole presentation on the relationship between sleep and memory. 4, supplements. I've already talked about folic acid, vitamin D, B12. A few other supplements would be vitamin E as in Edward, something called NAD, something called magnesium threonate. These are things that doctors like me test for specifically in terms of, are these important things for somebody's brain to work better? 5, stress management, stress reduction. Our goal is to not live without stress, as I said earlier. We are a quadrinity. We are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual beings. We tend to live in realities where a lot more of our energy goes into our physical body. And if you're a normal person, maybe you're all not normal. Most of us give enormous amount of energy to what we think. Yes or yes? So the amount, I'm calling it a mental body, the degree to which we analyze everything, the degree to which we need explanations, the degree to which we have to understand things. I'm not saying that you don't feel, but the degree to which you've put money, energy, and time. Can we talk? Joan Rivers, can we talk? The amount of money and time and energy you've put into learning about yourself as an emotional person is probably fractional. Don't take that as a personal insult. It's just where we are, is people identify themselves as, I'm going to go join a gym, I need to exercise. You know, good, you probably need it. This machine needs transmission oil, you know. Sitting is the new smoking. But there is something about the way we are distressed in life. Not just because we don't eat enough vegetables, or we're dehydrated, we don't drink enough water, good water. There's a whole bunch of stuff I do with my clients around eating a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that, and given you've got this, you might not want to eat this at all. Well, do I have to give up my cornflakes? No, just eat the box. There's fiber in the box. There's just nothing in the cornflakes. Number 6. There's a lot of research on meditation. Meditation is not stopping thinking. Meditation is quietening the mind. Meditation is giving you an ability to observe your mind. You may not, or maybe you do. Do you think your knitting is meditative for you? Absolutely. Does this lady, should she knit less and sit on a cushion? Maybe not. Maybe this is 10 times better than sitting on a cushion. You can do something meditative that's artistic, that's with clay or painting, beads. It could be creating a visualization where you're in a meadow for 10 minutes and you've learned to quieten your left side of your brain and your analytic, discursive, rational, linear, logical, left brain, and you've learned to kind of open up your right brain. Some of you might be really quite adept at it, just like you might be adept at tennis, and Debbie's not. But the right brain is another part of your brain that maybe you haven't learned a lot, so you could start visualizing being in a meadow. I have a 10-minute meadow meditation. If you want it, send me your email. I'll be happy to send it to you, free. And it's just 10 minutes. You put it on your phone, you put it on your computer, and you just sit and listen. Probably not while you're knitting. Probably not while you're cutting vegetables. You know, you just, yeah. You want to be careful of not multitasking, to take energy away from the value of the knitting or the value of the music. There are a lot of unbelievable music, probably not Purcell trumpets, and probably not Tchaikovsky or Aerosmith, depending on how old you are and what music you like to listen to. And I love Aerosmith. But there might be music that transports you to just be. So there's a lot of scientific research about how people's mindfulness practices, and breath work would be number 7, how to increase oxygen to the brain, how to increase blood flow. People tend to breathe too shallow. Taking deeper breathe, thank you, not just for a moment in the middle of a talk, but over their whole life, they might be breathing way too shallow, which again influences the quality of oxygen. Number 8, use it or lose it. Neuroplasticity. Learn French, learn Italian, learn Mandarin, learn Hebrew, learn Arabic, learn knitting. Would you start some knitting classes for us?
I used to teach in town for 20 years.
You used to teach.
Oh, yeah.
You gave it up. Did I miss the...
COVID hit.
Oh dear, sorry. So some of you have heard of neuroplasticity. Your brain laying new tracks, new pathways. And one of the variables of decreasing the risks for dementia is you learning. Maybe you've heard some older people do puzzles, crossword puzzles, or do things to just do word recognition.
Words with friends. Words with friends on Facebook.
Good. 10, be social. Remember I said loneliness is a big factor, so community activities, as this woman just said. Connection.
What number is that?
10.
What's 9?
What happened to them?
I missed it. I'll go back. Doesn't make any difference. We'll put it in. It does. These are not in certain orders, so my apologies. I missed it. I'll get back to it in a second. So 9 is being social. If you can, watch the Netflix series on blue zones and watch it from the point of view of how these people in extended families, as they get older, they don't use the word communes the way we think of communes in certain areas of the world, but family is different in these blue zones than in some of our families. And it's one of the things that scientists have now measured since they've been studying blue zones, is how people, as people get older and they're elders, they're not only looked at as wise people, as opposed to somebody going, time for you to go in a nursing home, time for you to go in assisted living, but they're now still welcomed into the family as they cook. Just, I don't get anything from you watching Blue Zones. I just love watching it. Thank you, sir. 9. Ready? Have a challenge or purpose. Have some goals. 9 is what's on your bucket list. Having something that you wake up to, that you have an eye that day, that week, that month, that you're going to be accomplishing, is kind of like use it or lose it. But now we're talking about something substantive, like in the world of action. I'm going to go out to lunch with my friend Debbie. I'm going to, you know, I have an online, well, that's the use it or lose it if you go to an online Spanish class. But the idea of having some clarity, the second chapter, in the second half, my book is 2 halves. The first half is on health, the second half is on healing. So in the first half of my book, there's a chapter on the immune system and digestion and your structure, your spine, blood sugar stability, and physical chapters. 2 pages, easy to read. The second half of my book is on healing. There's a chapter on trust, a chapter on forgiveness, a chapter on compassion. There's a chapter on intention. It's a tool of the mind rather than what's going to happen today. I don't know, whatever happens, happens. That's not a bad way of living. I'm just saying there are things that have been studied regarding the aging brain about people who are intentional. Do you have to be intentional 24/7? No. But do you use intention as a tool? It's a reason why there's a very short chapter in the second half of my book. Number 11 is mindset. There's a Yale study that people who have positive beliefs about as they age, they get wiser, healthier, more energetic, different than where we started almost an hour ago. As you get older, you get more tired, you get more tight, you get more inflexible. There's a Yale study that suggests that people's mindset about aging, when it's positive, they live 7.5 years longer. Wow. Just saying. Cardiovascular health, fitness, stretching, flexibility, not just I walk. I'm not saying walking isn't good, but cardiovascular, getting your heart rate up, is a big positive. And I don't have 13, I only wrote 12. So here's a bonus, 13. Thank you for, what?
What was it called?
12 is cardiovascular.
Oh, cardiovascular.
Yep. 13 bonus, laugh more, have more fun, tell more jokes, ask your friends to tell more jokes. God knows there's enough in our life that is just dizzying in terms of politics, social affairs in other parts of the world, things that we do to one another that are, can I use any other word besides mind-boggling? And some of those things have been happening for centuries. This is just today's headline. So how one stays filled with compassion, humor, and laughter might itself be a spiritual challenge. But there is a lot of research about people who laugh and have fun and how that the biochemistry and the molecules and the hormones that get released in the brain. I want to read something to you in closing and then see if you have any questions. Ready for the home stretch? Okay, this is right out of Google. This isn't me. I thought I'd share with you Google. You remember in The Graduate, what was the word in The Graduate, the movie? Plastics. Plastics. You remember? Okay, so here we are today. We're not watching The Graduate. Here's the word. Ready? Epigenetics. Epigenetics.
How do you spell that?
EPI. Genetics. So there are two things I want to leave you with. One is your body's ability to heal is far greater. Don't say, well, I'm 78. Well, I'm 82.
Just a number.
Just a number. But you need to go further than it's just a number. Really, are you congruent and resonating with a mindset? Your capacity to heal is far greater than we've been programmed. That's the first thing I want you to leave with, please. And the second is epigenetics is important because it controls gene expression. Just listen, you don't have to write this down. Epigenetics is important because it controls gene expression and cell differentiation during development, allowing all cells to have unique functions from the same DNA. It also acts as an interface between genetics and the environment, meaning lifestyle and experiences can modify gene activity, influencing health and disease risk across a lifetime and even into future generations. Wow, this isn't just for you. This is for future generations. Understanding epigenetics provides new avenues for disease prevention, diagnosis, potentially reversible therapeutic treatments for conditions like cancer, cardiovascular disease, and neurodevelopment disorders. What are neurodevelopment disorders? This is more than not taking Tylenol when you're pregnant to avoid ADD. Neurodevelopment disorders are dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, what we've been talking about. Second paragraph, and then I'm done.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Can you wait? Can you wait? Thanks. Epigenetics studies how environmental factors, behaviors, and lifestyle choices can influence gene expression, turning genes on or off without changing the underlying DNA sequence. These reversible chemical modifications form a genome like a layer of instructions on top of our genes that dictates how DNA is read and interpreted, influencing development, aging, and health. Environmental factors such as diet, stress, alter epigenetic marks, potentially leading to differences in health outcomes, including susceptible to disease. So, thank you for listening. Epigenetics, lifestyle, how you do or don't meditate, how you do or don't exercise, how you do or don't eat, what supplements you do or don't take. The factors that are within our control, I started to say, it's not part of our culture, but I'm offering you that how we age is way more related and influenced by things that are within our control than the way we live, because I know what happened to my mom and I know what happened to my dad. Epigenetics. What kinds of factors could you take small steps that might help your brain stay sharp? A few questions, and then we're a little over. Anything you want to ask? Yes, ma'am.
No, it's a quick question.
EPI. Yes.
The, when you say, exercise to get your heart rate up?
Yep.
Okay, my heart rate's already at steady at 119.
Yep.
So if I get my heart rate up further,
Uh-huh.
that wouldn't be good for me, I would say, per se.
I need more factors.
Okay.
I can't agree and I can't disagree.
Okay.
If you have a resting heart rate of 115, 120, first thing I'm gonna go is, why?
It's been,
Yeah, but,
it's just been, that's the way it's been for years.
yeah, but nobody has gotten to tell you why.
No.
Do you know why? Yeah, so
It's probably a medication.
well, or it could be related to stress, it could be related to weight, it could be related to things you eat. So I don't know if you have enough vitamin E in your body, I don't know if you have enough calcium in your body. Just to take that number in a vacuum and
Yeah.
to suggest that if you went to 125 because you were on a treadmill or an elliptical,
125 all the time.
yeah, but just to say that by raising it wouldn't be good for you
Yeah.
is to miss that
Peace.
maybe it's not good for your resting heart rate to be as high as it is.
Yeah.
And nobody's telling you what to do to get it to 105 or 110.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question.
Thanks.
We talked about dementia and Alzheimer's. Isn't Alzheimer's isn't kind of like dementia the umbrella?
Yes.
And Alzheimer's is one of the things probably like
Correct.
Parkinson's under that.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. I did not want to.
Is it hereditary?
No,
I keep hearing,
no, it's related to the factors we talked about. It's related to the 10 areas we talked about.
One of which is genetic.
One of which is genetics.
genetics.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Sorry.
What does epigenetics mean? Epigenetics are what allow your genes to express. So if you don't understand what they've been talking about for 20 years, then all you think is it's genetics.
Yeah.
What they're saying today is your epigenetics are what allows your genes to turn on or off. So even if Alzheimer's has a significant genetic predisposition, what you're doing with food, exercise, meditation, inflammation, trauma, is what allows that gene to express itself, and no one's telling you these 3 of the 10 areas are what you need to really focus on. They're only focusing on, oh, you have Alzheimer's, the tip of the iceberg. That's what I'd like you to leave this talk with. You guys are awesome. Take a look at my website, lots of TV, lots of radios. Take a look at reading some of my book. You can get a copy of my book. Come back in a month when we do our next talk. If there's any way I can serve you, thanks for being open.
Well, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
this morning.
Thank you very
Gives
much.
us a
God
lot
bless.
more things.